So, what does the world's oldest symbol mean? That question sounds simple. It feels like it should have a simple answer. Like finding the world's oldest tree or the world's oldest rock. You just dig until you find the one at the very bottom. But symbols aren't rocks. A symbol isn't a thing. It's an idea. It's a whisper from a mind that disappeared 100,000 years ago. And that makes the search much, much harder. The honest answer right up front is that we don't know for sure what the oldest symbol means. We probably never will. The person who made it is long gone. Their culture is gone. Their language is gone. Everything that gave the symbol its specific meaning has vanished. It's like finding a single word from a lost language. You can hold it, you can look at it, but you can't read it. But that's not the end of the story. It's the beginning. Because the quest to find the oldest symbol isn't really about deciphering a specific mark. It's about finding the moment our ancestors crossed a crucial line. It's about the moment they stopped just living in the world and started having ideas about the world. The moment they started storing those ideas outside of their own heads. The oldest symbol, whatever it is, means that we had become us. Before we can find the oldest symbol, we have to agree on what a symbol even is. Well, it's not just any mark. If a deer scrapes its antler against a tree, that's a mark. But it doesn't mean anything. It's just a byproduct of an action. If a river carves a line in the dirt, that's not a symbol. It's just physics. A symbol has to have two things. It has to be intentional, and it has to be abstract. Intentional means someone made it on purpose. They didn't do it by accident. They picked up a tool or used their finger and decided to make a shape. That decision is the first spark. Abstract is the real trick. It means the mark stands for something else. A simple drawing of a bison isn't truly abstract. It's an icon. It looks like the thing it represents. A picture of the sun means the sun. That's a huge mental leap in itself, but a symbol is one step further. A symbol is a mark that has no direct connection to the thing it represents. The letters in the word water don't look like water. The shape of a plus sign doesn't inherently mean odd. We, as a culture, have just agreed that they do. So the thing we're looking for is the first time a human intentionally made a mark that stood for an idea they all agreed on. This is a ghost. It's the first physical evidence of a shared mind. For a long time, we thought this kind of thinking started in Europe about 40,000 years ago. We saw the incredible cave paintings at Lascaux and Chauvet in France, stunning images of horses, lions, and mammoths. And alongside them, we saw strange geometric shapes, grids, dots, lines, and club-like figures. These were clearly symbols. They didn't look like anything in the real world. They were abstract. They were a code. But 40,000 years ago, while ancient didn't feel like the very beginning. Our species, Homo sapiens, had been around for much longer than that. What were we doing for the first 150,000 years? The answer, it turns out, was in Africa. In a place called Blombos Cave, on the coast of South Africa, researchers found something small. It wasn't a giant cave painting, it wasn't a dramatic sculpture. It was a little piece of ochre, a soft red rock used to make pigment. On this piece of ochre, someone had carved a pattern. It's a set of crisscrossing lines, framed by two parallel lines making a sort of hashtag or diamond pattern. It doesn't look like much, but it's everything. First, the date. This little red rock is about 73,000 years old. That pushes the timeline for symbolic thought back by more than 30,000 years. It's an enormous leap. Second, the intent. The lines are carefully engraved. They aren't random scratches. Someone sat down and deliberately etched this pattern. The rock was ground smooth first, prepared like a canvas. This was a project. Third, the abstraction. The crosshatch pattern doesn't look like a person, an animal, or a plant. It's a pure design. It must have meant something, but only to the people who made it. What did it mean? We can only guess. Maybe it was a marker of ownership. This is mine. Maybe it was a count of something. 3 moons have passed. Maybe it was a simple map of the area. Or maybe it was just a decoration, a pattern that people found pleasing. Even if it was just a doodle, that's still hugely significant. The ability to create and appreciate a purely abstract pattern is a very high-level cognitive function. It's the root of all art, all design, all writing. It shows a mind that has time for things that aren't just about immediate survival. A mind that can think about form and order. And the ochre block wasn't alone. In the same cave, from even older layers, they found shell beads. Tiny sea snail shells, all of the same type, with holes punched in them in the exact same spot. These were clearly part of a necklace or bracelet. Jewelry is one of the most basic forms of symbolism. Wearing a shell necklace doesn't keep you warm or help you hunt. It sends a message. It says, I belong to this group, or I have this status, or simply, I am an individual. It's about identity, and these beads are over 100,000 years old. So, is the Blombos crosshatch the world's oldest symbol? It's the best candidate we have for a complex, abstract design, but the story might be even older, and it might not just be about us. For a very long time, we pictured Neanderthals as our brutish, dim-witted cousins. The story was that Homo sapiens were the smart ones who invented art and symbols, and that's why we survived and they didn't. But recent discoveries have completely shattered that idea. In a cave in Spain, Blombos Cave, there's an engraving on the rock floor. It's another crosshatch pattern etched deep into the stone. It's been dubbed the Neanderthal hashtag. It's about 39,000 years old. This proves that Neanderthals were also capable of making abstract marks, and other evidence suggests they were doing it much earlier. There's evidence of Neanderthals using pigments like black manganese and red ochre as far back as 250,000 years ago. They weren't just using it to tan hides, they were using it as paint, maybe on their own bodies. Body painting is a powerful form of symbolic expression. They collected eagle talons and bird feathers, things with no practical purpose but a strong visual impact. They seem to have used them as personal ornaments. Again, this is identity. This is symbolism. It suggests that the capacity for this kind of thinking isn't just a quirk of Homo sapiens. It might be a much older trait, something we share with our common ancestors. The neurological hardware for symbolism might have been in place long before we started drawing on cave walls. This complicates the question. We're looking for the oldest symbol, but maybe it wasn't a mark on a rock at all. Maybe it was a pattern painted on someone's face with red ochre 200,000 years ago. Maybe it was an eagle talon worn around a Neanderthal's neck. These things don't preserve well. The physical record is a tiny, tiny fraction of what actually happened. We are trying to reconstruct a symphony from one broken violin string. Let's go back to the things that did survive. Let's go back to the caves. The art that started appearing around 40,000 years ago is a new level of symbolic expression. It's not just a small personal mark anymore. This is public art. It's communication on a grand scale. Imagine being one of those early humans. You live in a world of constant danger and uncertainty. The world is lit by the sun, the moon, and your small fire. But there is another world, a world underground. You crawl through tight, narrow passages deep into the belly of the earth, holding nothing but a flickering torch made of animal fat. And then, the passage opens up into a vast chamber. In the dancing, unstable light of your torch, the walls come alive. There are horses, their muscles tense as if they are about to bolt. There are herds of bison, powerful and immense. There are lions, captured in mid-snarl. These aren't crude cartoons, they are rendered with incredible skill and an intimate knowledge of animal anatomy. The artists used the natural curves and bulges of the cave walls to give the animals a three-dimensional feel. Why did they do this? Why go to such extreme lengths, deep in the most dangerous and inaccessible places, to paint animals? One theory is hunting magic. The idea is that by painting the animal, you gain some kind of power over it. If you paint a bison with a spear in its side, maybe that'll ensure a successful hunt. It's a way of trying to impose some order on a chaotic world. Another theory is that these were religious sites, sacred cathedrals of the Stone Age. The paintings could be depictions of spirit animals or gods from their mythology. The deep, disorienting caves could have been used for initiation rituals, where shamans would enter a trance like State and Z, these spirits on the walls. The flickering torchlight would have made the animals seem to move and breathe. It would have been a terrifying and awe-inspiring experience, but the animals are only half the story. Scattered among these magnificent beasts are the symbols, hundreds of them. There are neat rows of red dots, there are straight lines, there are shapes that look like a P, an X, or a Y. There are shapes called claviforms, which look like a key or a club. And there are handprints, or rather, hand stencils. The artist would place their hand on the wall and blow pigment over it, leaving a negative outline. It's a signature. It's a voice across the millennia screaming, "I was here." These abstract signs are even more mysterious than the animals. They are a true code. Genevieve von Petzinger, a paleoanthropologist, has cataloged these symbols from caves all across Europe. She found that the same 32 signs appear over and over again for a period of 30,000 years. This is mind-blowing. It suggests this wasn't just random doodling. This was a system. A group of symbols used consistently over a vast area and an immense span of time. Was it the beginning of writing? Not quite. Writing systems have grammar and structure that allow for complex sentences. This was likely a more limited system. Maybe the symbols represented concepts. A series of dots could mean a herd. A wavy line could mean water or a snake. A handprint could mean a person or a prayer. We don't know the dictionary for this system. But the fact that a system existed is the crucial part. It shows that human groups were sharing a complex set of ideas, a common symbolic culture. That little crosshatch on the Blombos ochre was a personal thought. This was a continent-wide conversation. So how do we get from these cryptic cave symbols to the words you're reading right now? The evolution of symbols is the evolution of how we handle information. It's a story of increasing efficiency and abstraction. The first step was the pictograph. This is a simple picture of a thing. A drawing of a bird means bird. It's direct, but it's limited. How do you draw a picture of sadness or tomorrow? The next step was the ideogram. This is when the picture starts to represent an idea connected to the thing. A picture of the sun could mean day or heat or light. A picture of a leg could mean to walk or to travel. This is more flexible, but it can get confusing. Does the sun symbol mean heat, or does it mean the sun god? This led to the development of early writing systems like cuneiform in Mesopotamia and hieroglyphs in Egypt. These started out as pictographs but quickly became more complex. They combined pictographs and ideograms into a system of logograms where one symbol stood for a whole word. This required memorizing thousands of different symbols, it was clumsy, and only a small group of specialized scribes could read and write. The real breakthrough was the rebus principle. This is the moment when the symbol stopped representing the thing and started representing the sound. It's a clever word game. Imagine you want to write the word belief. It's hard to draw. But you can draw a picture of a bee and a picture of a leaf. Bee-leaf, belief. This was the crucial leap. Once symbols could represent sounds, the path to the alphabet was clear. The Phoenicians, a seafaring people, developed a system where each symbol represented a consonant sound. This was incredibly efficient. Instead of thousands of symbols, you only needed about 24. The Greeks later borrowed this system and added symbols for vowels, creating the first true alphabet. Almost every alphabet in the world today, including the one used for English, is a distant descendant of this invention. It took tens of thousands of years to get from a hash mark on a rock to an alphabet that could record history, poetry, and science. Each step was a step away from the concrete world, and deeper into a world of pure abstraction. But this brings us to the biggest question of all. Why did we start doing this in the first place? Why did our brains, which evolved to find food and avoid predators, suddenly get interested in drawing abstract patterns and making up symbols? What was the evolutionary advantage? There isn't one single answer. It was likely a combination of factors that created a kind of perfect storm for the birth of symbolic thought. First, our brains had to be ready. The human brain had been growing for millions of years. It developed large frontal lobes, the areas responsible for planning, problem solving, and abstract thought. We developed a better working memory, allowing us to hold multiple ideas in our heads at once. We needed the right hardware before we could run the software of symbolic culture. Second, language was probably a key driver. We don't know when complex language evolved because it leaves no fossils. But most scientists believe it was happening around the same time we see the first symbols. Language itself is a symbolic system. The word river is a collection of sounds that we have agreed means a body of flowing water. Once our brains got good at using spoken symbols, it was a short leap to start creating visual ones. The symbol on the rock might be a physical manifestation of a word or an idea that was already being spoken. Third, social life became more complex. As human groups got larger, we needed better ways to organize ourselves. Symbols are a fantastic tool for social cohesion. Think of a flag. It's just a piece of colored cloth, but it can unite millions of people. It represents shared history, shared values, a shared identity. The shell beads and body paint of our ancestors did the same thing. They helped define who was in the group and who was out. They reinforced social rules and hierarchies. They were a kind of social glue. Fourth, symbols are a form of external memory. Our brains are powerful, but our memory is fallible. How do you keep track of the seasons? How do you remember which plants are poisonous? How do you pass knowledge down to the next generation without anything getting lost? Prism notches on a piece of bone could be a lunar calendar helping you track when the salmon will run or when the berries will be ripe. A symbol painted at a crossroads could mean danger, or good water this way. So, it's the world's first hard drive. By offloading information onto the environment, we freed up our minds to think about other things. Finally, and this is the most profound idea, symbols may have fundamentally changed our consciousness. Without a symbol for an idea, it's hard to think about it clearly. The philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein said, "The limits of my language are the limits of my world." Before we had a word or a symbol for the past, how could we think about it? We could remember things, of course, like an animal does, but could we reflect on history? Could we learn from it? When you create a symbol for lion, you can now think about lions even when there are no lions around. You can plan a hunt, you can tell a story about a lion, you can warn your children about lions. The symbol detaches the idea from the reality. This ability to unstick our minds from the present moment is the foundation of all human creativity, planning, and imagination. In a very real sense, symbols didn't just allow us to express our thoughts. They may have made complex thought possible in the first place. We didn't just invent symbols, they invented us. So where does that leave us with our little piece of red rock from Blombos Cave? What does that simple crosshatch mean? We don't know its specific message. It's a secret that will be kept forever. But we know what it represents. It represents a new kind of mind, a mind that was no longer just a passive observer of the world, but an active interpreter. A mind that could impose its own order, its own patterns, its own meaning onto reality. The meaning of the world's oldest symbol is not what the symbol stood for. The meaning is that it stood for something at all. It's the first time we see evidence of a mind asking a question and trying to answer it. It's the beginning of a conversation that has lasted for 73,000 years. Every book, every painting, every equation, every line of computer code is a direct descendant of that first intentional scratch. It was the moment we picked up a tool not to butcher an animal or dig for roots, but to record an idea. That simple, fragile mark represents the most powerful survival strategy ever invented. It's more powerful than sharp claws or thick fur. It is the ability to create a shared world of ideas, to build cultures, to accumulate knowledge across generations, to cooperate in huge numbers. All of human civilization is built on this one trick, the agreement that this thing, the symbol, means that thing. The oldest symbol means the start of memory, the start of art, the start of storytelling, the start of us. It is the first preserved thought, and the fact that we can hold it in our hands and wonder about it is a miracle. It connects us directly to a person who lived in a world we can barely imagine, but whose mind, for a brief, brilliant moment, worked just like ours. They had something to say, and they found a way to say it.